That cracked me up. I figured you were, and I was going to say something. I forgot until after you were gone. I was like,
Not as young as I used to be.
Painting everything in my house.
balloons and stuff.
Painted like the wall behind my TV. I painted my kitchen floor was already painted, so I repainted it. Painted a door. Yeah, but like that's not. I like to talk to somebody about redoing it, and they said no, well, we're gonna do it over. So I painted it like 5 years ago.
I wasn't about to even try. Hope.
You skipped the, because it was right by this, it was right above this. Did you see this?
Which one?
Like, so this invoice, fire truck, is that the
Thank you. We made,
picture? That's one thing, oh yeah, we need to replace the sidewalk, that's that.
I think it has this too.
Chris. And then so
Well, that's for the,
this is for the
that's
truck.
why they're passing around. But there's just some, basically, some similarities and some stuff that's different. And then, just some basic info.
Okay.
Nothing,
They printed out
nothing.
what we were, did you print all those out?
I had trouble trying to figure out just how to say that. A little bit plain, only because I don't think that they have the chemistry.
Well, I'll make you guys copies if you want them, but I know stream of paper.
There's a lot of things that I think they could improve on. They will, but
Dave, are we doing both the fire and the police thing, or that one later?
They printed out all the stuff in one
oh yeah,
for the.
200 plus people, and then the kids were laughing. They were having fun. You
Down
know,
there for an hour.
All right, it's 5:15. We're going to start the public safety meeting. This is for Logan Sports New Engine 4. Jeremy, come on up there. This is Captain Jeremy Stewart. The chief's on vacation, so we'll ask her any questions you have, and it's pretty good.
Can you just tell us about a little bit about it?
Yeah. So I'm Jeremy, Jeremy Sterrett. We put a committee together several months ago, back in August, September. Chief Miller had us put a committee together. About 7 individuals are on that committee, 2 from each shift, and then a straggler here and there. We were asked to put a committee together to spec a new engine 4 for the south side. The engine that's over there is about 20 years old right now. Basically, it's coming up on time to replace it. The engine we spec'd is almost identical to the one that's over there. We did not do anything different to it other than some minor modifications. We did 7, I believe 7 vendors is we met with. We met with HME, Seagrave, Ferrara, E1, and Pierce, Rosenbauer, and Stuffen. HME, Seagrave, Ferrara, E1, and Pierce could not build the truck for us for different reasons. So HME, Ferrara, and E1 are part of a RAV group, which is like it's a manufacturer that makes multiple different variations of the same truck with different names. It's kind of like the appliance industry, if you know anything about that. So they pump out a bunch of trucks, and they put a different name on it and different warranty. They couldn't even build it for us. Part of the thing with Engine 4 over there, it has to be able to fit in that firehouse. And part of the problem is a standard fire truck is about 3 or 4 feet longer than the one over at Station 4, and it's about a foot taller.
So that makes it a custom then,
Yep.
basically.
Yep, there's really no way around it. Seagrave could build one. It was about 4 years out. It was roughly 1.1 million. Pierce could build one for about 1.1 to 1.2 million, but they have proprietary parts, and we're having trouble with that right now on some other trucks that we have of not being able to get parts. So they own their own parts department. You have to go through them to get parts, and it's kind of a turnoff for us because we're running into problems and we can't get it fixed. So we narrowed it down to Rosenbauer and Stuffin. They're both made in the United States. Rosenbauer is made in North Dakota. Stuffin is made in Ohio. They both have service centers relatively close, Fort Wayne, and then there's another one in Ohio. So they both have service centers or service techs fairly close. Neither one has proprietary parts. We felt like Rosenbauer was a little bit of a better price truck. It was significantly less money. It was like 7 or 8% cheaper, give or take a little bit. So anyway, it's almost identical to the truck now. They both have 1,000 gallons of water, 1,000 feet of 5-inch. They have all the hose loads off the back. The things that we changed on the new truck, we did away with the cross lays to try to get some more room to make the truck fit in the station a little better. That was one thing we did. Something we kept the same was the ladders. It's the last truck that's first due that has 35-foot extension ladders. So that was very important to us to keep those on there. That'll hit a 4th floor window. So like the taller buildings, we can get to the 4th floor window. We're getting some stuff out of the cab for our safety. We have a lot of equipment in the cab right now. We were able to do away with a couple things, make the compartments a little bigger to get some stuff out of the cab. So, you guys have any questions? I feel like I'm kind of rambling on.
Personnel does it hold?
It'll hold 4. It has a 4-man cab, the driver and the officer, and then 2 forward-facing seats.
You do with the old one when it's out of commission?
So the old one will probably get liquidated. I don't want to speak on that because I'm not 100%.
I just don't know what happens with old fire trucks.
But
I guess I don't.
usually they go to auction. They go to the city's auction, and they don't bring a whole lot of money. So.
Okay.
It's the same color, it's the same size. Basically, it has to be able to fit in number 4 station. It's very tight.
This fire engine fit under the viaduct
Yes.
over
Yeah,
on the south side?
Yep, it'll fit under Psychic, it'll fit under Cliff Drive, it'll fit anywhere in the city. It's actually going to be one of the shortest trucks in the fleet that we have.
So the truck that you have though, I mean, we're gonna need it to last 3 more years.
We're hoping.
First of all. But does it have any big issues right now?
None that I'm aware of. None that I'm aware of.
They have a backup truck
We have 1 spare at the moment.
that would fit in that station.
We have 1 spare. And we rotate them back and forth a little bit. It seems like they're both out of service at different times. They're both, the other one is the one that we're replacing is a 2005. The spare engine that we have is a 2001 or 2. Don't quote me on that exactly, but it's even older.
They're both Pierce engines, and they both cost the department a lot of money in parts this past year.
So we get rid of the 2001 then, or
One of them, I don't know. That'll be up to the chief.
depend on which one is best suited to?
I'm assuming they would have the mechanic look through it, or a mechanic look through it, and then decide mileage and so forth like that. Maybe which one's running better, or which one's a better fit to keep. I don't really know on that.
Where's out on it, or what becomes out of date?
So a lot of times, like what's breaking down on them is the electronics usually break down on them. The bodies start to get to where they're just, doors don't open and close quite right. I know one of the engines, either engine 3 or 4, had a new axle put under it. We just put new leaf springs in one of the trucks. The front leaf springs actually broke, and the front axle was riding on the frame. The frames on a couple of them have broke like all the way through from rust, basically. Some of the manufacturers have fixed that, so both of these manufacturers and a couple others have fixed that. They give you a lifetime frame warranty. Pierce is notorious for the frames breaking. We've had 2 trucks since I've been here that the frame is actually broke, or we've had to have it fixed or whatever. It's just a lot of wear and tear. You wouldn't think, that anything would ever break on something that is that expensive. But honestly, they get rode pretty hard, and they're not they don't follow all the rules of like DOT, if you will. So like if you had a dump truck that weighed that much, you'd have to put multiple axles under it, but fire trucks are exempt. So we have a ladder truck down there that basically is 80,000 pounds on 3 axles. So I don't really know. I mean, they break down, the valves usually get really sticky on them. Like if you go to engine 3 or 4 right now and you grab a hold of the valves and you go to open them, there's some that will open fairly easy that we use all the time, and others that we don't use, but maybe in special circumstances, and you can't get them to open. Like you really have to pull on it or fight on it. It's a lot of corrosion. They just wear out.
Fire hydrants, huh?
What's that?
Like fire hydrants?
Yeah. I mean, they just, they just get a lot of road grime up in there that in places you can't clean out, and over time stuff just breaks down. So electronics is a big thing. Throughout the years, they're in there trying to, we go from a laptop to an iPad, and from an iPad to this other type of digital radio, or this radio to that radio, or some cell phone systems in there or something, and, they're in there trying to, clip new wires in here and over here, and a light goes out and they don't make the same one, and then the mechanics are trying to reroute the wiring, and it's just a lot of sensors on there, and we have stuff on them all the time that's broke. I mean, I hate to say it, but they just wear out.
So when you looked at getting this truck, I mean, is this the best suited truck for the needs of the fire department right now? I mean, when you look at the overall department and it.
I believe so, yes. I believe so. I believe for, so this truck, a little bit about this truck, it covers the south end of town. So basically the railroad tracks over, it's first due. When I say first due, that's the first fire apparatus that's going to arrive on scene on that part of town. Keeping in mind that is the industrial park, that is the Hoosier Heartland corridor, that is the airport, there's a school over there. There's some pretty high risk things over there that this truck is going to be first due to. It's second due in the main part of the rest of town, but that truck has some pretty big responsibilities. So it's something that. Yeah.
So how is this truck meeting those responsibilities by being 1,000 gallon?
Yeah.
And the ladder?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good thing. So something we've done, I'm gonna stand up for a minute. Something we've done on this truck that's a little different. The one that's over there is it's set up wonderfully. Something we've done throughout the years, we've grown a little bit. We actually have a set of extrication tools on the engine for now, for the Hoosier Heartland corridor and some of the factories, like Tyson's and stuff. There's some specialty stuff on there for those places. They're actually in the cab of the truck right now. It's a huge safety concern for us. If we were to roll a truck, some of those tools weigh upwards of 100 pounds. So something we've done is been able to take those out and put them in the back compartment. Something else we've done on this truck, which is the only truck in the city, there's a lot of farmland that the city's annexed out there. That's kind of our responsibility now. We put a piece of hard section on it, which really doesn't cost us any money, but it's something that no other truck in the city carries right now other than our tanker. So if they're the first ones there, they can draft out of like a mobile water source or portable tank or something like that. The 35-foot ladders, they're the last 35-foot ladders that are first due in the city of Logan. We'd like to keep those on there. A lot of manufacturers want to get rid of that and do like a 28 or 24. The significance of that is those ladders, when Ray Timmerman was on fire there last year, those were the first ladders to the roof. So that was our first, our primary way to the roof for that. So we've done some things, EMS cabinets, kind of a thing that you don't think about a lot, but for guys to get out of the truck, and then there's usually 2 guys on that truck over there, to get off of the truck, to get all the way up into the back into the compartment inside and get stuff out when, a child or, somebody's having a medical emergency, it's not what you wanna do is like fumble around trying to find stuff. So we put cabinets in that you can access from the outside, so you can open it and then grab it. So we've done some little modifications like that, but the truck over there is set up really, really well, and we like the way it operates. There's just some minor modifications we've made.
Have you seen this truck?
No, so this will be custom for the city of Logansport.
Okay, but have you seen something close to it that makes you happy?
Yeah, yeah. The engine 4 that we have currently is almost, if you parked them side by side, they would almost be identical.
Okay.
And that truck, we really like that truck. We really like that truck. It's just it's aging out, and it's starting to kind of fall apart, for lack of better words.
Does this company offer similar warranties for items you're talking about, like frame rot and all
Yeah.
that?
So it's in the book. They gave us, this is their book, so this is all about that truck. So it has a lifetime frame warranty. It has a 5-year paint warranty. It has a 10-year electronic warranty. I'd have to go find it in the book. They're all pretty much industry standard when you buy a truck now. There's not a lot of differences. Some of them offer like a 10-year paint warranty or a 15-year paint warranty, but all that amounts to is you're paying an extra $20,000 or $30,000 up front versus paying for it maybe in 5 or 10 years. The chances of using a paint warranty or a warranty like that is probably slim. If we have some chipping on it, like if you look at any fire truck anywhere in Indiana, there's corrosion on them. They're aluminum body, extruded aluminum usually. Some of them are stainless steel, but to use the paint warranty would probably be slim. So we're getting a 5-year paint warranty on this, but a lifetime frame rails. The pump comes 10-year. A lot of the stuff is a 10-year or more warranty. The pump on this is all stainless plumbed, so that's something that's been upgraded. We have a lot of trouble with the older fire trucks, especially. They would get electrolysis in them from the flowing water and differences in metal. And so something that they've been doing, manufacturers have been doing, and both of these do it, was a stainless plumbed fire truck. So we felt like that was something else that is why we led to these two vendors.
Any other questions? Comments?
You being a retired fireman, is that correct?
Yes.
How many years you have been?
Altogether 40.
40. So you have any recommendations, any further
They've gone
information?
through the truck and they've done a lot, and they've made all the hose come off the rear of the truck, so when this vehicle does pull up to a fire, it's gonna have to drive by the house itself, so they can see the first side, the front side, or A, B, and D side, so they can fight the truck off the rear, which is good, so if they would have to pull an aerial in there, it gives the aerial in front of the house, which is how it should be done anyway, so they've got there's no costly, that's good. The best thing about this thing is you don't see the rear of the truck, but the hose bed's right there.
Yeah, so I didn't touch on that. So we were able to keep 1,000 gallons of water on it, which is important to us in our city. We are very blessed with hydrants. However, there is places in town that we don't have hydrants, very, very few. And so 1,000 gallons is a big deal to us. A lot of bigger cities you'll see running, they'll run 750 or 500 gallons of water. But we're not big enough to do that. We can't rely on somebody else pulling up with us. So that 1,000 gallons is really important to us. So with that being said, we were able to keep 1,000 gallons on there. We actually have an L-shaped hose bed. So the tank on it, the tank on it is L-shaped like this. And by doing that, it allows us to put the hose is down. It's about 60 inches, about 5 feet from the ground. So right now, the way it is, you have to climb up on the tailboard of a fire truck, and then you have to grab a handle, and you have to reach up about as high as you can to pull the hose. We've had a lot of guys fall doing that, so you don't think about it, but I mean, if we could prevent an injury, long term, it saves the city money because we don't want people to get hurt. So we've had guys that have fallen back, hit their elbows, had to go to, different things. So we were able to lower the hose bed way down on this one. And that's something that we would like to see in the future. Our engine one now's, it's lower than they used to be, but some of them are pretty high. So you think about pulling a couple 100 pounds from above your head, it can be, you know, you can be pulling on it and have a guy pulling on it with you, and it can be kind of challenging at times. This truck has a one-piece windshield for visibility. That's something else that this manufacturer offered. We didn't actually know it, but it's actually a heated one-piece windshield. We have some trucks that are a two-piece windshield, and with all the electronics in there, like our radios and other things, the laptop and so forth, the visibility of the driver, sometimes it's like you're really relying on another person to help you drive, just so you can see other cars and stop, you know, all the stuff. The one-piece windshield was another reason that we leaned towards this manufacturer, and a couple offer it, but it gives you full visibility, and then it's heated, which BJ knows. We operate at all times of the year, all hours of the day. If it's raining out and we've been out in the rain and we get back in the fire apparatus and we're soaking wet, the first thing that happens is the whole truck fogs up, and you have guys that are trying to wipe the windshield and so forth. So that takes care of that. It also has a blower on it, but we didn't know about the one-piece windshield or the heated part of it until the very end. So that was something we're like, wow, that's something pretty cool. This truck has Haas on it, which is something the city's recently purchased. I didn't really know that they had purchased it, but what it amounts to is when a fire apparatus is driving down the road with its lights and sirens on, if you have a newer vehicle, your vehicle will actually alert you that there's an emergency vehicle operating in the area. I didn't even know that our city had purchased that. And then when we were going through some of the stuff, the rep said, Jeff's his name, said, hey, this has Haas on it. It's a free subscription to you guys for buying the truck. And Jason goes, well, we just bought that for our trucks. So that was something I didn't even know existed, really. So, but anyway, you guys got any other questions? Sorry, I interrupted as soon as I said, do you have any other questions?
This truck's all aluminum.
It is all aluminum. It's extruded aluminum, which means that it's pumped out in a frame. There is savings on both of these trucks, pretty significant savings. I know I showed Dave some of it. If you pay for the truck in full, there's like a $70,000 savings. He said that might not be wise because some of that money you guys have in investments and so forth. That's not for me to decide. But there is some savings in there, and I believe it is on the Sourcewell page. It shows you that, if you pay at this point, there's so much savings. If you pay at this point, there's so much savings. So that is something. Both vendors offer something like that. If you had to buy a fire apparatus that did not have to fit into Station 4, you would save a little bit of time, and you would save about $100,000 off the top, just to put it in perspective. So I know before the meeting, some people were asking about that. That is a legitimate thing. So this truck's about 3 years out because of it being custom. So if we were to wreck a truck, heaven forbid, or something like that, maybe blow an engine, and we had to have something right now, it would be difficult to find something to fit in that fire station. This truck gives you 2 feet in front of it, in between the bumper and the door, and 2 feet behind it. And the truck that's over there right now, and there's nothing we can do about this, they all do it. When you open the officer door or the passenger door, it will actually hit the wall. So we have like Velcro and some, it's not Velcro, it's Velcro and like some padding on the wall. But just to keep that into perspective for you guys, it's very tight over there. And if something were to happen, it would be hard to find a truck to fit in there.
And there's been a few times where they backed the truck and the ladders went to the rear door.
Yeah. This one, hopefully we won't have that problem. We slid the ladders up on it a little bit. But yeah, accidents do happen. It is very tight. It is very tight.
What about right behind the station?
That's something for you all, not great, you know, but we were just tasked with coming up with the replacement for engine.
You got any money, Kelly?
You're gonna save 100,000 just.
Well, if you really wanted to.
Spend another how many million?
Knock a hole in the back wall.
That is totally probably up for discussion, but maybe not with me.
Sorry, I'm sick of that thing.
So it might be something, you know, for you guys to talk about at a later time. We had to get our 30 days extended. Our quote was not good anymore. We had to get that extended. They extended it until April 7th, I believe, was as far out as they could push it. And with the stuff going on in the world right now, they basically said that if they have to requote it, multiple vendors have said if they have to requote it, the price will probably go up.
Anybody else?
Kokomo has five or seven, I'm not exactly for sure, Rosenbauers. We've been in contact with them. They seem to be very happy with them.
New Waverly's got two, I believe.
Do they? I'm not exactly for sure. I know they had one. I know they had one.
And the other thing there is, Dave and I were joking about, there's option 3. You can get on the State Road 29 to the little 4-way flash over that church is at, you turn right to go to Lebanon. Block and a half on the right side of the road is old engine number 4 from Logosport. It's 1944 model, but it'll fit here. Probably, yeah.
In the last 20 years.
Does anybody want to see the spec book or anything? Or we've read through it. The spec book? Yeah. Yep. No, this is the actual document we do sign at some point if you guys choose to go forward with everything. It's the Sourcewell on tab 5 right here. We would sign that, and then we actually fax that to the salesman, and they put us in the line for production at that point. There is a short spec in the front, which is basically a line item, and then there's a longer spec in the middle that explains stuff. So it might say like steel wheels, but that might be in the short spec. You actually start reading through the long spec, and it'll say that they're aluminum alloy. You know, it might be contradictory to what the first spec is. The first spec is a checkbox to make sure you have everything in place. I can leave you the stuff in one too. It is their truck. It is the same thing. Their spec and everything is in there as well.
Yeah, when we were looking at this thing, I always like painted wheels, but according to Jeremy, the chrome wheels here are cheaper for them to paint the wheels that actually wreck the truck. It costs more money.
So it's kind of an odd thing. You would think a painted steel wheel would be cheaper than an aluminum turned wheel. The thing is, when they buy the wheels and the factory has to, paint them, they have to demount the wheel, paint the rim, prep and paint the rim, put the tire back on, and then rebalance it and everything. And the cost of that costs more than buying an aluminum like Alcoa. Dave and BJ both have my email. If you guys have questions or comments, concerns, anything, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Good to go.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave this.
It is 5:41. Public safety meeting is over.
days.
So at that point, if they send the chassis over to the other location to finish out the truck, you can pay $507,000 up front and reduce the cost by $19,504. So on the sheet that you got, it's definitely that amount, assuming that if we went forward with this, that would be the amount reduced. And then if you look at the next page, this is the sheet. This is our investment sheet. And if you look on there, Fund 483 is the non-reverting loading equipment fire department fund. And we set this up a couple years ago when Rick was still the chief. He started talking about this truck. And of course, that was two and a half years ago. And back then, he said the cost was probably about $800,000. So you can see all the way to the right there where the asterisk is. Right now, that fund has basically $814,000 in it. I tried to just basically estimate out if we move forward, what type of interest that account will draw over the next 3 years. You see the chassis payment come out of there. Basically, there's enough funding in there, I believe, to purchase this product without having to do any moving any money around. And according to the contract, it says the price is locked in. And I know with the other truck, there was some kind of a change. It was minor, but there was some kind of a change along the way. But if you look down there at the bottom, if everything worked out 3 years from now, we'd have enough money to cover the second payment. So something to consider while we think about this. And if we want to move this to council for April the 7th, those are options that we have as far as financing the truck would go. Won't affect our debt fund or any of the other funds at this time.
What was the deadline that you said you have to have it signed by? Isn't that the same date that they have to have the? Okay.
They actually moved it to that date after we met with them, that being as soon as we hear it.
Okay.
It is in Sourcewell, so that you guys are all familiar with Sourcewell, I'm assuming. So it doesn't have to go to like the public bid, from what we understand.
We have a list of vendors for, I believe, some police equipment, I think maybe even street department trucks. Are they on that list also, Chad? Or do you know?
Sure.
Yeah. There's a list of approved vendors and pricing. And of course, you can see from the unit price, can you tell me there was one item that was lower, but, or was this the lowest of them?
This is the lowest one that said they would build for us.
Not too many to pick from. We worked through 7 different vendors on this. But anyways, it's something to consider if you guys would like to move this to council and write a resolution saying you support it. And we need to decide that today if you want to move it forward. You still have 2 weeks to think about it before the vote.
I'd say move it forward.
I agree.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Next on the list was community crossing grant. And again, I don't believe there was anything on the screen for you, but I'll pass this around. This is also some numbers. We approved the community crossing match a long time ago. Now what we have to do is approve the funds we're going to move into the community crossing grant fund. Way back on the 22nd of January, Cameron kind of worked on this, and he came up with a a lot of the funding that's suggested and what you're gonna look at. Well, here's what he had, we have two grant funds that have a little bit of a balance in them. One has, as you see on that sheet, 95,000, that's the fund that we go ahead and use. Ross says that's just money that was left over of ours. Everything's closed out in those accounts. So we start out with $95,000. The other community crossing grant fund that we had set up has $5,000 that we move into there. And then we went down, RDC, we've got them in for up to 200,000, and it'll basically be based on whatever their part comes back at. But isn't that what you appropriated, up to 200, Bill?
Up to
200, yeah.
It's already
For the roads in the industrial park. Then we've got MVH restricted, which we budgeted 150,000, and that money can only be used for road paving, the restricted fund. And that would be a nice balance in there if we want to come back later in the year and apply for another one. We $500,000, and if you look up there at the top where it is, the non-reverting restricted is Fund 203. You see in the middle column it says current activity, there's $36,000 that was deposited in there. What that is, that's gasoline tax money we get each month. Half of it goes into the MVH fund, half of it goes into the restricted road use fund. So each month it varies month to month depending on, how much travel there was. But, so it gets about $30,000 to $40,000 a month. So if we use that, and then we would use $300,000 in GEO bond, and then $269,000 out of our infrastructure fund down there, 471, and that would come up with the match that we need for all the road paving that we've approved. So, any questions or concerns?
Can we start today?
Everybody okay with that recommendation?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good work, Dave.
Yes.
Alright, next we have farmers market expenses. More paperwork for you. We got two different, as we've made this transfer, we transferred the property to the community foundation and discovered that we have property taxes on it. So the first sheet up there at the top, and I think you guys realize from the transfer, there's 10 lots down there. And when they were the RDC, they had to pay property taxes on them, which you'll see there in the first column on the left is what RDC will pay. And then on the right-hand side is what the city owes to get it up to date for the transfer. So what I'd just like to do, we have some miscellaneous council funds. I would just suggest that we use our miscellaneous council funds. We don't even have to pass a resolution on this. I just want to get approval from you guys for where we can get the money to pay the city's portion. We can just get that, run that through the claims and that we don't have to write a resolution for that. And then the other is with the relocation of the farmer's market this summer, they asked if we could supply them with a porta pot so they don't have to walk over a block to get to the depot restrooms. And I told them I'd make sure that was something we could fund for them also. The cost of that's approximately, through sanitary services, $160 a month with a $60 delivery charge. We bring it, we clean it out weekly, and that would be down there for approximately 6 months. Farmers market will be on the two lots across from the Pear Tree Gallery and then the State basically the city-owned lot there across the street, and then the PNC lot, which they've given the farmer's market permission to use. So, that would be
Where's this lot at now? Precisely.
across the street, Pear Tree Alley,
Okay.
on Fourth, right across Market.
That parking lot there?
We own that lot, the corner lot there.
Okay.
And then the lot beside it, all the way over to China Lane, or almost to China Lane, is PNC's. And they've given us permission for the farmer's market to be there
Okay.
for this summer.
Are the taxes something that was supposed to be paid previously, and they need the taxes?
Yeah, every time that we can to the property, I'm just gonna say it's an adventure, is that what you say, Bill?
Yeah, I mean,
Aaron, you wanna chime in on it?
A tax exempt, and you owned it, the city owned it, and then it went to another tax exempt, RDC, and then back to the city, which is tax exempt. When things change hands, you have to refile exemption paperwork. Even though it went from non-exempt to a non-exempt, RDC had no idea you had to do that. They do now because there's a couple other things they've had to pay taxes on. So that's why they are paying the lion's share, which is right at $3,000, because the city deeded it to them and they didn't go file paperwork. So that's when the clock started ticking on these taxes. You would think it would remain exempt, but it's not. And Davis tried with the county to get that waived, and he was unsuccessful.
The only thing that I would add to that is it's January 1 of the year is when they actually calculate the taxes of who the owner is. So because you didn't switch until March of last year, that's why last year had the taxes, basically, but future years, so pay 2026, there's no taxes, since it was in the city's name. But basically, the city doesn't have to file paperwork, but any other nonprofit, city and county doesn't have to, but any other non-taxed has to do the paperwork.
And that's what that problem is, right? We owned it for basically 9 months of last year. So that would be good.
But you can just pay this out of a miscellaneous account, we don't, okay.
Now, right, doing that, and they're actually, I think they're gonna start seeing activity down there in April at the farmer's market, so that'll be pretty exciting to see.
Right.
Any concerns about security, vandalism, stuff like that to that porta pot? Yeah, what's the pay? Yeah, or somebody backing into it,
I don't
or
know if there's
you think it'll be okay sitting downtown?
down, I don't know if there's a way to secure them, or,
I'm sure there is, yeah. Okay.
good question, I don't know. Language matters. Okay. Mary, you want to talk about that at all?
I mean, we extended it, Dave, with your recommendation, we went ahead and was able to extend it for an additional month, the services that we were getting from Language Matters. At this point, it's just kind of figuring out what we want to do moving forward. If there's a thing that you want, if you guys want to take a little break, maybe look at other options. Language Matters is just who we've been, using. And so that's why they're the example that I've used and why we've gotten the information. But at this point, if you guys want to continue, I'm all on board. If you guys want to take a little break, we do have our own translation services that we are utilizing through people that are getting paid through our translation services within the city. So we could utilize them for a month or so, but I probably wouldn't go more than a couple months without this or something like this, just because of the increase that we've seen within immigration and things like that within our community. That's my only concern, is taking too much of a break from some services like this.
Couple things, I would say, we talked about this last month, the encumbered, there's still $2,000 encumbered for the month of April, I believe.
Okay.
And that's the only, we extended for that month, and then the question becomes, who would pay to extend this? We talked a little bit last month, you know, about other languages and all that, but with the current, in my mind at least, with the current conditions and all these individuals that are here on TPS have deadlines to have to leave.
You're right.
Regardless of their status, I don't know if they've offered, at this point, I don't think they've offered them any avenue to stay.
You're right.
Some of them have dates, I believe, in April and May, they have to leave. The Haitians that are a larger part of our community right now, it's August 3rd.
Yeah.
And after that, I don't know what happens, or if they're gonna change their mind between then and now, but, you know, in my mind, I think it'd be fruitless to enter into a long contract for several languages until we know what's gonna happen. So the question becomes, do we want to continue, right now we have Spanish only, is that correct?
Spanish. Yes.
You
want to say Spanish is the main one.
Are you interested in using any of your contractual services to pay for this, Chris, or?
Well, the 2,000 encumbered could give us another month, Dave. And then I agree with you. I didn't even think about the TPS status and those things. So knowing that information, I mean, that does kind of change where we kind of want to go. So I would prefer to just use the encumbered that we have left and table this another month. I know that's rough, but just table this another month, let the mayor's office take care of April. And then let's just go ahead and reapproach this towards the end of April and see where we want to go from there. That way it gives you guys more time to kind of figure out what you guys want to do. I'm on board with either way. I mean, I don't.
Well, I know you guys put out the word or something, and the usage went way up for the last month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if you look at the usage from March of '24 to February of '25, I mean, this chart that they sent you is, I mean, I'm not interested in paying for this if this is all the use it's gonna get. And I don't know what you did to promote it for a month, like, I don't know, maybe it was the holidays or something. But that's the only time that was used in November and December. And, I mean, this contract is asking, the minimal, I think, is $23,000 and it goes up to $26,000 a year. So I would like someone to come and present to me what their services are and how we're actually going to be using them, because in our office, we have Hispanic, Creole, we have them come in our office every day, and I don't speak any foreign languages, and they communicate with me through their phone, and they're not using this app. So I would just like for them to tell me what I'm buying.
Absolutely. No, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me set that up. So that would allow us then another month, if that's okay. Then I can have them come in April and talk to you guys and give you guys a presentation, and then you guys can ask them questions if you have any.
I don't think they necessarily need to come until May, because if
Oh,
all
that's
of the
true, yeah.
people on temporary status are going to be deported, that's a lot of people in Logansport.
Yes.
So I think that's the time to look at it, is when we see if there's going to be any changes from the present administration's decisions.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I'm on board with that.
The other thing, Chris, I did get your letter, I read it, and I guess my thoughts on at this, I think now is probably not the right time to send these letters to either the state or the.
Your federal government,
I think I would agree. I think I would agree.
Maybe I'm reading.
No, I think you're reading the room very well. I agree. Yeah, so I'm okay with that, if we just want to go ahead and table this, and then we can just talk, about what we want to do.
you can arrange for a presentation later after we, in maybe a month. I mean, for sure, you're going to do April.
Yeah, I would also like to see just how, I mean, what does the person do on their phone, and then what's their, I mean, I would like to see how the whole thing works.
Absolutely, me too. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's do it, yeah. I'll set that up.
We got, I'll pass these out. This is, vehicles, I thought Randy would be here, but, I kind of explained to Chris, I talked to Chris today, he reached out to me. budget last year, we set the budget for up to $50,000 for code enforcement to buy a new truck. They ended up, with the deal, they pulled that money out of the budget and suggested to them to start looking. Well, they ended up, they purchased it, they got a nice used truck for $17,000.
How many?
70,000.
Okay.
So, but unfortunately, they didn't trade the old truck in thinking that Brian would be able to use the old truck. They each have a truck when they're out on the street. Well, the old truck is having a lot of issues. So if you look at it's not all itemized on here, but basically they told Randy that the cost on fixing this truck was going to be more than the truck's value, which they valued it at $3,000. It has some pretty serious issues. One of them is, I think, the frame is bad. So that kind of, they came back and they brought a couple quotes to us for an additional vehicle, one for $23,000. I'm not, the only thing that confuses me is Randy wants to buy a SUV. And I would be more inclined, to me that makes no sense. I would want him to get a truck, but that's just me, and he's not here to explain why he wants an SUV, so.
Yeah, no, I said why, I said I would think that he would need a truck.
So he's got two quotes here, so what I'd like to do.
Yeah, but these are both for Jeeps. These aren't for an SUV. These are not for an SUV.
Jeep Cherokee.
Jeep Cherokees.
Oh, you think that's an SUV?
That's what I call that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, one is for a Jeep.
That's not a truck.
Cherokee.
Well, I drive an SUV.
I did Cherokee.
Sorry.
No, it's
I just don't consider that an SUV, but I got you.
I was thinking more of a Tahoe or Suburban as an SUV, right?
I drive an SUV, so I was thinking that's not an SUV.
Yeah.
A Jeep.
A Jeep.
SUVs are less common.
What reason did Randy give for wanting an SUV? Did Randy give any idea about his SUV, why he chose that instead of a truck? Or his preference?
Yeah, I just don't think, he said gas mileage, but in my mind, I just, your code enforcement just seemed more reasonable to want to need a truck. But I would like to get in here to explain that to us. The thought would be here today is, they didn't use all of the 50,000 that we had set aside, so I was thinking, we just say, you got X number of dollars to go out and find a vehicle. If you don't want to get the truck, you need to come and explain to us why you need the truck. But to go ahead and consider funding before the other goes out completely.
So if we just say yes to the $50,000 less the vehicle they've already purchased, they can have that amount of money to just go get themselves a truck. And if he wants to get something besides a truck, we just want to know why. Okay.
Everybody all right with that then?
I am, yes.
Lastly, is Chad, and he's kind of in the same situation back here. They had a truck, what was the value of yours, 500?
Yeah, the code enforcement 3,000 was something, yeah, or 500.
500?
Are you trying to get a Jeep too?
No, we want somewhere practical. We don't want- I'll read this. Truck number 6 is our oldest pickup truck. It is a 2011 Chevy Silverado with roughly 127,000 miles. And since it's only $500, it's got several problems going for it. We actually stopped using it in the fall of 2024. We hooked up the white Dodge truck that normally pulls the mower trailer. So we used that through the winter. We asked Dave Morris in January if it would be possible to replace number 6 this year, even though it was not in the previous capital improvement plan. Since our trading value was only $500, we really tried to avoid putting a lot of money in it. We knew we weren't going to get it back. The heater core needs replaced. That's a $1,200 fix. Last week, our mechanics went ahead and bypassed the heater core. The good thing about that is very expensive, or very inexpensive to do that, but the bad thing is you have no air conditioning or no heat. So if we do use 6, we can only use it till it gets cold next year. Let's see. And I had no problem with using it in the summer for AC, no AC. The rear differential is also going out. That would be about $1,000 replacement. The seats are shot. The steel frame on the driver's seat, right when you get in, it's been exposed for more than a year. And when you sit in that seat, and Shane Walker, he's had back surgery before. He has lingering back problems. And I think arguably it could be from, he's always in truck 6, either driving or in the passenger side. But if you drive in truck 6 all day long, doing bags and brush, it like throws your hips and back kind of out of alignment. I mean, at the end of the day, you know you drove truck 6 that day. Replacement of those seats, surprisingly, is $1,400. I didn't realize seats were so expensive. But apparently, I think it's more of a supply-demand thing. I think manufacturers think their seats are going to last the lifetime of a vehicle. But as often as we get in and out, in and out, in and out, they wear away faster. There's actually, when they take used cars to get discarded, there's a waiting list for seats. They're in so high demand, and they're still that expensive. The steering is also going out. A new steering rack would be roughly $400. The headlamp covers are foggy, could be replaced. The water pump leaks. A new water pump kit. Water pump kit. And yeah, the tires hold air. Well, we get flats quite often, but that's just you drive over nails.
We can stop talking about the $500 truck.
Well, yeah, okay, I'm almost there. The water pump would be $500. So the dilemma is, do we want to put $4,500 into a truck that has a trade-in value currently of $500?
Well, I think you can get the water pump, that's $500.
Oh, thanks. We recently, once Dave said, yeah, go ahead and get a quote. So the guys went up to Mike Anderson and Jacob Willie. We'd like to get a 2,500. They hold up better than 1,500s. And since our trucks are almost always driving pulling trailers, we think that we'd like to shift our fleet to those. So they're a little more expensive than the 1,500s, but we think it'll save us in the long run. The quote was for $52,304, with subtracting rebates of $2,100, bring us down closer to $50,000. This year, our only capital purchase we have scheduled is a trailer for $7,500. And normally, and previously, dump trucks were purchased every other year. Well, we ordered a truck in 2023, so technically this should have been a dump truck year. But instead of ordering a dump truck, when it comes complete, when the chassis and everything's fixed on there that we need to add to plow snow and the salt and sandbox, it's more of a $200,000 purchase. So by just taking 2 beds this year and replacing, we've really saved the city so far $100,000 by not getting the dump truck. That's the way I look at it. And you should as well. So, yeah, our only capital purchases this year were two dump truck beds and the trailer. So we were at $97,500. So it's kind of an abnormally low year for us. Because next year, we'd like to get a loader, and that in itself is quoted at $240,000. And anytime we have to buy a dump truck, that's over $200,000. So you can get 4 pickup trucks for the price of 1 dump truck. Now, once again, I said every other year, historically, we have purchased dump trucks. But since we seem to use the pickup trucks and trailers more and more, we are looking at, the mechanic suggested maybe every 3rd year we buy a dump truck. Now that would save, like, over the lifespan of replacing the fleet, over $1 million. And I think of that, but then I think you're replacing a dump truck at the age of 27 years old. That's pretty old for a vehicle, even though they are overbuilt. So I'm thinking of maybe a staggered 2-year, 3-year, 2-year, 3-year of purchasing dump trucks. And at the end of that cycle, you're selling one when it's 22 or 23. And I think that's reasonable. And that will also save money over the long run, as opposed to replacing one every 18 years. So,
Is the lead time still ridiculous on dump trucks?
yes. Actually, we do not have the one that they ordered in 2023. They're still finishing it. So, we were supposed to order a dump truck this year. We did not. We got the dump beds. So next year would be a pickup truck year. And the year after that, 2027 will be our next dump truck year for ordering. So that's where we are.
Is your quote for, is it a new truck?
Yeah, for a new pickup truck, yeah, 50,000.
Is there any way you can get at least another quote on each, Chad?
Oh, yeah, we could get another quote, yeah. I was looking online a couple months ago, and it seemed like everything we wanted was 52,000 in there. Just the standard 2,500. We want one that just has one row of seats. We don't want the seats in the back. The truck I drive is that way, but I don't really care for it. No. I hauled high school kids around last Friday, but that's the first time anyone sat back there in 3 months I've been using that truck, so.
Signed waivers.
Well, it was part of that P-TEC program. They probably should have signed waivers. Next year when they do the P-TEC, Kelly, that's all you. Prepare the waivers.
Any thoughts on this, guys?
Sounds like you need one, so. Get another quote. Sounds like yours isn't working.
Second that.
I mean, we're not at the Fred Flintstone barefoot stage, but we're getting there.
All right, well, we do need at least 2 quotes.
Okay.
And if you want to allocate 50,000 for a new truck or 52,000, make sure we got enough. Or what would you like to do, guys?
Well, I think I would do 52.5 to be sure that,
Just to make sure we're
just
covered.
to make sure we're covered. I don't want him to find something and then not have enough money to buy it and have to come back and do this process over again.
All right, we could probably, we can take that out of the GEO bond fund also. And
Yeah, that was what we were gonna use for
write
capital
something
improvements.
up for the street, or the code enforcement anyway.
Right.
Everybody okay with going that route?
We can take off 500 because you can trade it then.
I was gonna ask, we need the 500 back.
We can try. They'd probably get more selling at the auction.
$495. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Chad.
All right, Gina.
So can you imagine being in the conversation where they wrote down all the,
When they're all spitting out what's wrong with the truck.
probably like a group effort?
You took pictures, thank you. Yeah. So this is in front of the pool. You know, they did, when they redid the pool in 2015, they did all the sidewalks except that one right there along the street. And you can see it's in pretty substantially bad shape.
Now, is this all the way from the corner?
This
to the alley?
This includes the bump out where the thing's at. And I'm gonna make sure it goes all the way through the driveway that goes up the alley on the south side of the pool. So, and it's 17.5 is how much, but I don't have that in my budget at all. And so, I guess, we had a couple complaints about it last fall, from people that walk their dogs or they're always walking there. And there are some trip hazards, no doubt about that. And so, it is something that probably needs to be addressed, but if you want to wait and put it in our budget next year, we can do that.
Well, here's what I was thinking, Dan. I mean, I looked at your budget for a while today. You had 25,000 for Burkhardt, and Parks Board didn't want to do anything there.
I know, but we started using that for,
Well, you used 11,000 for the cameras.
yeah, and
600.
there was something else we did. I don't remember.
Well, I was gonna say you should, in my mind, you had 13,000 left there. And you didn't need the Mondo money.
No, we didn't use the Mondo money, right.
10,000, so you're up at 15,000.
Mhm.
399. I just figured, what'd you pay for your van?
It was 42.5.
So between those three.
Okay.
You should have enough money in your budget. And honestly, you know, I guess what I'd say is maybe you need to, when you do your CIP this year, have somebody take a walk around your different, you know, because I agree, this should need to be fixed now before the season starts.
Yeah.
Is it possible we get the same deal like a regular city resident would with Brown Construction? Like I had all these.
Yeah, it's 50/50 match.
That's just a residential thing.
I'm the other half then. I mean, the parks are the other half, so. I know, but that's not what it's for, I wouldn't think.
Feet needs replaced.
Huh?
Did you measure off how many feet need replaced of sidewalk?
It's 3 foot by 208, 624 square foot is what that is for the sidewalk. It does also have a curb of 208 feet. And the bike area, that bump out there is 210 square feet, so.
No, we didn't see that. We did not. So can you send that to us, Jan?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Yeah.
'cause
My mistake, I thought you had that one, so I didn't print it out.
that's okay. I just was wondering where you were getting your numbers. Where is the quote from? Is it?
MR Lauthen,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so we haven't seen that, but.
He always did, he does an amazing job for us, so. Anyway, okay, I'm fine with that. I'll work it out then. so.
Can you check, excuse me, Jan, can you check to make sure that that Burkhart money, that you only used $11,000 for the cameras and the rest of the money is still there?
Yeah,
Because I'm having the same thought you are, that, that may have come up and
it was 11,000 something.
no, but I thought something else came up where we were talking about using it for something.
I know, I gotta go back and check and see what, I gotta look at that more closely.
Okay.
I can't recall right off the top of my head what all that is,
We
so.
can make sure that the money's there for
Okay.
these three accounts to add up to pay for.
So, and we'll just do transfers where we need them, so.
Well, you said.
Can you get him?
But you said you had, what, 7,000 about left from your van?
Uh-huh, yeah, 7,500.
And Jan, how quickly can this be done by them?
Oh, he was ready to start last week, so,
Okay, great.
yeah, so his work is starting to pile up, so I'm sure he'll try to get it done before the season opens, before the pool opens, so.
Okay, thank you.
So if you can check and figure out what you need to do.
Okay. Yeah, Kelly and I'll get that worked out tomorrow.
It'll have to go through council if you use them on, go through different brackets.
Right.
You get that on the April 7th.
Right, and but you just have to do those transfer forms, is that correct?
There should be, it should all be or,
Resolution for the Mondo money?
To transfer it from one bracket into the capital.
it's all capital anyway, is what we're saying is, what's there is capital funds, so I don't have to, you guys don't have to approve that.
Capital
Mhm.
fund, okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jan.
I believe that's all for Finance Committee at 6:22, Finance closed.
6:22, we'll open up the Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting.
You ready for me to jump in?
Hey, you want to go ahead?
So I have quite a few different items to go through, so I'm going to go in order that was put on the notice. Julian Ritalin Aim High Sports Complex is actually in the county, but it's in the 2 mile fringe, so we adopt that in our comprehensive plan, or any changes to our zoning ordinance goes if it's in that 2 mile fringe. This was something that was put together with the county and the new superintendent for that complex, basically establishing some reports that they looked into, the goals that they want to achieve out there, making it a larger sports complex than just the softball. And then they talk about different things of adding opportunities with public-private partnership, trails, using some of the woods. They have a lot of acreage out there, more parking, more entrances, picnic tables, restrooms, basically just growing it to be a whole sports complex out there. So this is what that plan is all about. In the comprehensive plan, these are just basically goals and objectives, so they're not actually laws, but you adopt it as a resolution, so when we're applying for grants or different things, we have a plan to go back to see what are we actually trying to achieve in those areas. So, you guys have questions on the AIM field one? There's a lot of stuff they want to achieve.
Field
but-
used now.
How often is it used right now? They are growing each year. They use it quite a bit. I think they already have like 5 different tournaments that are really long. She had last year one that was like a 4-day, and she had like 100 people, like players coming through the day. So they're actually bringing in a lot of sports into Cass County that are able to then use amenities in Logansport.
Out of town players and stuff like that come through?
Yeah, they're tournaments from out of town. Not always is there a team that's from Logansport or Cass County, so.
Okay.
You want me to move on to the next one?
What would you say?
I said, you want me to move on to the next one? If there's
Yes,
no
please.
questions on AIM?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. Any questions on the Aim High Park?
I think,
Yeah, please continue.
I think the next one you had on your agenda was on the banks. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the banks, we previously had adopted a plan, just a one-pager, in our comprehensive plan when we started looking at this area and redeveloping it. We took some, we worked with a company and Priorities Committee and some other stakeholders to really dive into how this could be laid out in our community to use these sites. You can see in, I was going to kind of show you guys this. There are different areas. All of the areas that we're looking at are currently owned by LU or the city of Logansport. So none of the properties that we're talking about actually are anything that anybody else owns. But this is our first opportunity in our community to use our riverfronts as an amenity versus just turning our back to the river, which is how old industrial towns are built. So in doing that, I'm just going to go through each section a little bit. I know there's a lot of documentation in here. There was a lot of analysis and those type of things. So if you guys have questions on that, we can go through it. But it's basically taking what surveys and different things said and moving forward with that. I think some of my pages are mixed up into each one. Okay. So Area 3 is the area where the coal plant used to sit. That area, there is some property there that has to basically be covered with something, concrete, asphalt, something like that, because of what they had to infill there. So we're looking at more of an art area and kind of design with art, parking, those type of things, pavilion. You can kind of see it in this picture here with maybe an additional pedestrian bridge. Again, remember, comprehensive plans are just the general idea for the area. That doesn't mean it's going to be exactly how it's built. Obviously, funding comes into play, developers come into play, but just how can we incorporate what is existingly there with some ideas of things that would work on the riverfront. Then there is, some of my pages are messed up, so don't mind me. I want to make sure I say the right section so you can follow. Then there's area 2, which we look to do some infill with townhomes possibly, and use the LU plant, the LU pole barn that's currently on Bringhurst as a possible, I don't know, indoor sports, or they've talked about daycare or something, amenities for people who live in the area, not so much the retail portion of it. And then, like I said, the property that's along the river here where you see the townhomes would be property that was already owned by the city or LU, but fitting in with some of the residential that's already in that area.
Utilities made any statement officially that they're gonna move out of there?
No, so they could never move out of there, and this plan can still be adopted. It's just the idea of how can you develop the riverfront. So if no one ever, if the street department never decides to move, you don't have that land to move forward with that. If LU doesn't decide to move, you don't have the land to move forward with that. But the point of this is to have an idea of what you would like to see, so that if something were to open up, we know what zoning district, which we'll go into in a little bit, we should have it so that these type of things that the plan shows can happen. Then there's area 1, and it's basically similar to what you would see in a downtown. So it's a mixed-use development with residential above. We do some stair stepping back with some of the structures because of the structures in the area, but this just kind of gives you an idea of along 6th Street, what you would possibly see in that area. And then here's a better one of that 3rd area where you can see the parking and the art and pavilion area. And then the 4th area, we talk about maybe a smaller scale of more like condo type of residential with some retail, as well as boutique hotel that would be next door to the event center. So the event center is here currently, newly built, possible boutique hotel, and then some of the maybe condos or apartments here with retail on the bottom in that area as well. Let's see if I have a overall picture for you. But again, these are just ideas of how we can see it develop. Does that mean that's exactly what's going to happen? No. What it means is that we've looked at soil types, we've looked at the environmental, we've looked at traffic flow, we've looked at some of the things and uses that we would like to see in the area abutting next to river, as well as the parks and as well as downtown. So making sure the uses kind of all work together harmoniously in that area. That's a lot to go through. I know there's a lot of pages. If you guys have specific questions on that, again, it's just a plan, so it's not law, it's just a guiding tool when we talk to people about possibly moving forward with different projects like this.
And you want to adopt this as a resolution for this?
Yes, again, this would be just a resolution.
Okay. What about area 3A and B, now that the generating plant is down, that's just empty lot?
Yeah, so in that area, we actually have to, because of the soils in that area, and I think what he said was that it's like 30 feet down, they had to do infill to be able to cover up the hole from the generating plant. That because of that, IDEM and different things are requiring certain things to be done with that property. So because of that, we need to stay kind of clear of that, so that would be a perfect location to do parking or
No residential or no residential homes or anything like that?
No, not on that location.
So in regard to this game plan right here that you have, the only thing that's actually happening right this minute is the boutique hotel that is interested in And is, according to Bill,
That would, I've not seen anything in my office come in for that yet. That might be more of a bill question. But in general terms, we're looking for a boutique hotel. I know that redevelopment currently owns it, but I don't think they've put out an RFP or anything.
They initially wanted to go where you're talking, the ground was right. So they're looking now just west of the event center. I would say we're about 95% locked into getting them. So it's very close. I presented them an incentive package from RDC this past week, and they're reviewing it, and it looks very promising. So
and
yes,
Aaron, you don't know about this?
well, she wouldn't yet. It's
My department doesn't know about it. I do not,
Yeah.
and I do not have the liberty to say about it.
She's a-
That's based off my licensing as a planner. I'll lose my license. So I cannot say anything unless it's come in my office with paperwork. Bill can say whatever he wants.
Aaron's been in meetings.
He can tell you whatever, and he can say my name.
Until you land them and know that they want to be here based on what the offer is, then you wouldn't go through all that.
Okay, but you're close to, you're pretty confident this is gonna happen. And so my question is this, so does this have to be, do we have to accept this before you can continue doing your work? Like, is there a step process here, or it's all good?
Not with the plan. The plan just helps us, if you do not have a plan of how you want to grow, you cannot put laws in place to say that that's a requirement. So we're going to talk about the rezone of that property. Without having a plan of what we want to see there, a rezone doesn't make sense to change the property to allow for those things.
Okay, do we have to rezone for this boutique hotel that you're 95% sure of? We have to rezone this to make that happen, is that correct?
Correct. And that's another.
The reason we don't go that step before this step is, let's say we rezone it to match the hotel, then the hotel doesn't come and we want to put housing there instead.
Oh, okay,
So then you have to go back.
redo it, I understand.
Yeah, so that's why we have a plan in place so that we know what we're wanting to see and happen there so that we can rezone it so that's opportunities there versus having to come in every single time we have someone interested.
Okay.
So we set up a plan, we rezone it to meet that plan so that Bill can do his job and then I can say, yes, you're allowed versus saying, no, Bill just made up something, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It just happened.
So that's kind of the process of things.
Bill, if the boutique hotel comes in, would they go for Area 3B for a parking lot? Would they?
I don't have the picture back, I don't know where, our TV's not
The
working.
next one over from where the boutique hotel would be
We
going in.
don't have the areas memorized, sorry.
You see this?
My papers are all messed up.
It's just the next lot over where the generating plant was. It's split into 3A and 3B.
It's nowhere near the generating plant.
No. So they're in
No.
area 4B.
Pardon?
They're in area 4B.
This is next to the event center, Scott.
Yeah, for the Area 3B, would that be used for the hotel parking at all? They'd have enough
There'd
on?
be a separation of even another development between there.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions?
About the residents.
So in general terms, this plan that I went through helps us talk about the next few things that I'm gonna.
You had a question about the residents.
What about, the residents and houses that are currently there, like, will they be able to speak, on the situation if we go forward with developing it?
So they have, we did a public hearing for this. We always do a public hearing. And we did a public hearing for rezone. They were only notified if their property was being changed. So currently, their property, there was 4 houses, and I can point out when we get to the rezone, 4 or 5 houses that got notice because their properties will change in zoning. But all the other ones will stay in the same zoning district they are today. So basically, what they're allowed to do today, they'll be continued to be allowed to do. Now,
That doesn't mean they don't want to sell it to a developer, or that doesn't mean that they want to sell it to someone else and move from the area. But we're not changing any of their properties on how they are currently today. So nothing's being developed on it, as well as no changes into their zoning.
Okay.
There's a few that are, and I will tell you about those in the rezone portion.
Any other questions on the banks, Aaron, from the council?
On the comp plan, I have two other things to go over on the banks with you.
Okay. We move on. The next one, Chase and Davis, is that correct?
Nope, it's still on the banks. It's just the next step of on the banks. So we talked about the plan of what we'd like to see happen there.
Okay.
With that plan, then we look at the zoning districts. Do those zoning districts match the plan that we're trying to achieve? And they currently don't in some areas. So up here, it shows you in blue lines. There are two areas that currently are either professional residential, which is the one closest to 6th Street, so on your left, and the right one is for high-density residential. So these are the properties. There's actually 5 homes that are on that right or eastern portion that we did notify, letting them know that we are requesting a change to the zoning district. All those houses are grandfathered in, as that we had one person come to the meeting and I talked to them. All of those houses are grandfathered in. They can remodel their house, they can maintain their house, they cannot expand on their house, changing the district. But they also have the opportunity to sell their property as commercial land too. So they can still live there as long as they want. They still are taxed the same because the use of the property is the same. The only change is that if they would want to sell it for part of a commercial property or whatever, they would be able to. So with that, the rest of the area, we as the city actually own, or redevelopment actually owns. So this is section 4B and 4A of the comp plan that we just looked at. So the boutique hotel area and the smaller residential retail area. Those type of uses are not allowed in high-density residential. The only things that are allowed in that district are really multi-family, single-family homes. So we would need to change that. B2 is actually our downtown district, which allows commercial apartments, so basically the apartments above the first floor. It allows for retail, it allows for a boutique hotel. All of the things that we talked about in the plan is allowed in that district. That's why we were requesting to change it to B2. On the street department side, obviously, again, this is grandfathered in how it is today. It doesn't really change anything. Half of their property is actually already zoned B2, so we would be just changing the rest of their property to match that zoning district of B2, which again would allow for the things that we talked about in the comprehensive plan change. In addition to that, so the next one, if you go to it, in our comp plan, we also have a future land use map. This map helps us understand what we see development to occur. So if you didn't have a plan, like we're talking about adopting, you would look at the future land use map and say, this is what we intend for this area to be. Well, this was done in 2016 prior to any of that being removed. So really this area needed to be relooked at for the future land use map of what we would want to see there. So I changed, and I only changed the ones that we were rezoning. So we changed those to mixed use. Mixed use would be, like we were saying, retail and apartments together, boutique and housing, townhouses, those type of things would all be in this mixed use area versus institutional or traditional neighborhood. Traditional neighborhood's more of your, what you would see previously in that area, or institutional would be your government stuff. So that's why they were future land use like that, because that's how it was developed previously. But we'd want to change that to match our zoning district. So we do multi-use, which is the future land use of the same zoning district of B2, so that they kind of match up, both maps match up with each other. So this would be a change. This would be a resolution to change our future land use map in the comprehensive plan. And then the rezone would actually be the law that's put in place to be able to develop our comprehensive plan we went through. Does that kind of make sense, or, okay? It's a lot of information. So that's what that staff report talks about. I just kind of generally went through it with you versus actually going through the staff report. Do you guys have questions on those other two, or the two things I just went through on the change of the zoning district and the future land use?
So what's the plan for the street department?
It would be, this plan was the larger one on the corner of 18th. The one that needed to be in order is the one that I messed up the order.
Yeah, I think everyone's dream would be to go opposite General Street and Water Street and have the big.
Yeah, so it was area 1.
How far along that was?
I don't. Yeah, it's not.
So that's the area 1 that we talked about, and that's what this is. You can go a little bit higher because it's a deeper lot, and then have some of the smaller commercial in the front, next to the residential, but it would be an extension of your downtown. So if nothing ever happens to the street department, nothing ever happens to the street department. But you have this as a plan of where do we want to see ourselves go? That's what you're looking at. Any additional questions on that?
You said in the first group where the people had the chance to sell their houses and go, you rezoned it for,
B2, central business.
they can stay there and live there, but they can't redo anything?
They can maintain their house, they can remodel their house, they can't add on to their house unless they go through a process.
Why is that?
That's because of the change of the district. The district doesn't allow single family.
What about these people, didn't you say in the planning meeting that they can have businesses in their homes if it's?
Yeah, so because it's B2, they could change that home into a business if they wanted, or they could live there and have a business in their home.
Such as what?
Any business that'd be allowed in B2. You could have a restaurant, you could have retail, you could have a professional office, you could have about anything. Yeah, so any business that's allowed in the B2 would be allowed in those homes. So if someone wanted to convert one of those homes into an accountant office, they could do that.
They would have to live in that home to do that?
They would not.
They would not, okay.
And like I said, it's just the 4 or 5 that are right there on that strip. Typically, you don't like to see spot zoning because it takes away from what you're actually trying to achieve. You want to say this area, this is what we're wanting to achieve, but not displace people. So by doing it this way, they're allowed to stay there and still maintain their home, still renovate their home if they'd like, but they have the opportunity to sell it for a business, start a business there, or whatever, because that's what we're trying to achieve in this strip of development, basically.
Any other questions on the rezone from the council? Okay, can we move on?
Okay. Sorry, I have a lot for you guys. So Chase and Davis is the next one. Similar to what we did on the banks, it's a similar process. So I'm going to talk about the comprehensive plan change first, and then we'll go through the rezone to meet that comprehensive plan. So there was some stakeholder meetings, and there was some community meetings, neighborhood meetings. I will say up front, the biggest issue is traffic out there. So as we move forward with this area, that's something that we need to look into. It's specified in this, as well as people come to the public meeting, as well as people coming to the stakeholders meeting and neighborhood meetings. So as we all know, there are traffic issues on Davis and High and Chase and Michigan Avenue. So as we move forward with this project, adding more housing is going to add more traffic. So we understand that, but what else is going to happen to this property? Does this property become commercial? Does this property become residential? Does this property become single family residential? Are there apartments? Those type of things are the discussions that were had at these meetings. Yep. Safe Streets for All. So right now, my understanding is there's a hold on it because of different legislative things that are happening. They said basically don't move forward until we know we have the funds. I mean, we have the funds, but like actually have the funds. So we're kind of holding to do our contract with the state. They're not really getting back with us to sign the contract with them. So that's what we're waiting on. I think the state's waiting on their, yeah. So, but yes, we were awarded that. Obviously, this is an area we had stated in our grant that we wanted to look at. So as soon as that can be signed, we can move forward with RFPs and get a consultant to start working with us. So there's different alternatives that were done that were then, and it's in the appendix, different scenarios that we then had people at these meetings put little dots. I know a few of you came to the meetings, put little dots, say what they like, what they don't like, what they'd like to see, those type of things, and then what specific areas they like the best. So we came up with two different items or plans, alternatives. We kind of separated them into 3 different areas. It seemed like, I'm going to show you this. Section 1, east section it's called, which would be Chase and Davis, the corner of Chase and Davis. Actually, everybody seemed to want the same alternative for this section. The south section, which is just south of everything in the back corner, everybody wanted to see the kind of the same development there. This north section was the section that really had a lot of discussion. One, because we felt like it was the opportunity to possibly expand the business. I call it a business park, it's not, but the kind of businesses, professional offices that you see on Chase Road existing, it's our opportunity to bring that over. It's also our opportunity, which you also see in this area, to bring over maybe apartments or condos or townhomes or what have you into this area. It would be an easy transition to add those into the area because we have them existing to the west. And so there's obviously some people that were for it, some people that didn't want to do it. So that's why there's 2 alternatives. So the one alternative is the, and I'll go through this section here on the northwest, is doing duplexes in this area. It'd be a little more high density than you would normally see. And then there is on the south side, more of your larger lot, high-end homes, and then connecting to Smith Street. That was hopefully one of our alternatives to keep traffic from all being on all Chase and Davis, was having this additional street. We also talked to neighbors in the area for this eastern section on Chase and Davis. They really wanted to have the entrance and exit onto Chase instead of onto Davis, so we made that happen there as well. With these 2 sections, like I said, they're the same in both alternatives, but with these 2 sections, although you only see one connecting road, there would be development where there would be, for safety purposes, police, fire, those type of things, there would be an extra entrance in, but not used as a road. So if we had to use it, they would have a hard path to be able to go back there. So there is a second entrance. I know that that's been a concern in the past. And then using the stormwater, we don't have the ability to create everything into the stormwater system, so we would be holding some of the stormwater and then draining it into the drainage ditch that is there. That was another one that was really brought up because it goes to the river and the neighbors to the south wanted to make sure that they weren't going to get flooded. So that's another one that's pointed out extensively in the plan as well. The other option, and you should be able to see like the actual renderings if you're looking through the plan, if you want to look at that. But the other option was, again, these 2 are the same, and then on the northern west end, you would have some townhomes that would provide that buffering, and then possibly multi-use. So whether we're doing like we saw on the banks where you have apartments above and maybe some services that are provided below, or professional offices that are provided below, that could happen. or you could just keep with the duplexes, townhomes, or just an apartment building. So since that was somewhat of a concern, when I talk about rezone, just keep that in mind, of the district that was chosen because of that. So, again, this is just a plan of how it could work, how we have less intense development on the south with the entrance in from Smith Street, a little more density to that corner of Chase and Davis, and then, like I said, the two different options. So this one shows the mixed use here, where you have some townhomes behind and maybe some apartments and retail or professional office in that area. You guys have questions on Chase and Davis?
I know that when we annexed it, Chase Road became the cities, Davis also become the cities.
Portion of Davis becomes the city.
So now there's.
So it's city, county, city, correct?
On the other side of the bridge, you go back to city.
Yes. That is true. I did talk to Jeff Stanton because that property was done when they were doing Chase Road and Davis Road. They actually purchased right away to fix those roads. So that right of way would actually have to transfer to the city. So there'll actually have to be deeds, but currently by annexation law, you are required to take care of those. Any other questions on Chase and Davis plan? If not, I'll go into the rezone portion. Okay. So, again, for the rezone, we look at what does the plan want to see happen, and how should we rezone this property to help meet that plan. So our current zoning district in that area is fringe residential. What that means is it used to be outside the city limits, and that's the district we have. So we actually need to change it now to a district that's in the city. So with the low density or the larger lots that we're looking at, our largest lot is R2, low density residential. It's still probably not meeting exactly what we're talking about on the lot size. But since we have somewhat control of that, when we're doing that, we can actually say they have to be a half acre or an acre or 2 acres as the development goes along. What this does is make sure it's not our smallest lots and not high density where we allow apartments and those type of things. So R2 is our lowest density that we could pick in our current zoning districts. And then PR is professional residential. I do, and they did get notified, the Parker's Dentistry is currently zoned neighborhood business, but right next to it is the funeral home, which is actually zoned PR. Dentistry is also allowed in the PR, so I went ahead and made that connection. So there's PR along the whole Chase area from Smith Street on. So we changed the dentistry to be professional residential as well on this. Again, that's allowed there, so it's not changing anything for them really, other than continually keeping that strip of professional residential. Professional residential allows for some of the things we talked about. It does allow for some services, some things that you see in the business park that's to the west, as well as some housing. It only allows multifamily by special exception. So what that, it does allow, I think, townhomes, but basically they would have to go through, if we wanted to do apartment buildings, they would have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals as a special exception. So what that does is it still gives the neighborhood a meeting to go to discuss what's going to happen with that property. So townhomes, a single family, a service like a dentistry office or something like that could be allowed in that district, but if we do go into the apartment complex idea, they would have another public meeting before that would be allowed there. So it gives kind of the citizens that had concerns with that part of the plan an ability to come to a meeting and talk about it. With that, go to the next one. Again, we look at our future land use map and see what the changes would be here. We would just change that strip to be the sorry, neighborhood commercial is what it's called, which is what that whole business park is zoned, or has a future land use of. And so we would just bring it over to match that PR, professional residential zoning district. So that the zoning and the future land use map match. Do you have questions on that? Did I explain everything enough or not enough or too much? I don't know. I always feel like I get blank stares, so just let me know if there's any questions as you move forward or think about it more before the meeting. You can always ask me additional questions. I think that's all I had on the agenda.
So you're gonna address all this rezoning at the next council meeting?
Yeah, if you want to move it forward to the next council meeting. With planning, just for new people, with planning, how it works is that you have 90 days after we have our meeting to actually make a decision. So since you have 2 readings, usually we like to get it on your agenda as soon as possible so you can get it within 60 days, but you do have 90 days. If you do not make the approval or denial or send back within that 90 days, it becomes automatically approved. So just as a side note for any new council members.
Neighborhood commercial on the northwest property, is that right?
Yeah, so that's the future land use description, and that just matches up with that professional residential zoning district.
What would an example of neighborhood commercial be?
We're not rezoning it to neighborhood commercial. Neighborhood commercial is just a future land use map. For
that area?
Yeah, for that area. It just kind of meshes professional residential and neighborhood business zoning districts together into just one future land use description.
You're really just trying to cover all the bases.
Yeah, we hit the comp plan, we do the rezoning to meet the comp plan, and then we change the future land use to meet what the zoning map says.
Any more questions for Aaron from the council? We in favor of moving it forward? Next meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron, that was a lot.
That's normal when I bring stuff forward.
7 o'clock and the Planning and Economic Development meeting will come to a close.
One more item.
Right, okay, my bad. Sorry, Bill.
Nice try. First is the Peak Community Services. A few of us have been working with Peak to try to find areas for them to build more housing. They have a shortage. Talking to Dave on a couple different areas that the city owns. We landed on Dunwoody. As reference, back about 4 years ago, the city, or the Parks Department, looking to reduce their inventory and their responsibilities a little bit on what they take care of, decommissioned Dunwoody Park. And on November 10th of 2021, they declared it surplus property. So we knew it was available, but they're still taking care of it. So it really didn't accomplish what the goal was. So down there, if we do it, went to Parks Department this month. They agreed to transfer it to the city of Logansport if it's for the purpose of housing for Peak Community Services. And I think it's a great fit. They have about 40 clients that they're trying to place. If they can do that in Logansport with new housing, they plan on having to probably hire 50 more people because it's complicated structure on taking care of individuals, more staffing down on Woodlawn Avenue. So working with Chris Neighbors and Dave and a couple others in the mayor's office, we think it's a great fit to move this to Peak. They have agreed to recognize Dunwoody with some type of a sign or, because there is a family that Jan brought to my attention that we should probably recognize for their donation. So that's where we're at.
Do you know how many clients would be able to, they would house?
Right now, the group homes are 8 people. The duplexes, like you see at Tipton, right now, they're 8 people each. So if they do a group home, there's a limitation on how many you can do in a certain area. If you do duplexes, you can do as many as the land allows. So for every one they can put up, 8, they're going to put as much as possible. I knew you were going to ask.
Sorry.
I have a picture. I left there thinking, she's going to ask that question. Jan, do you happen to know the answer?
I cannot.
It's okay.
It's a pretty good size area.
You mean acreage of the park?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's like 5 or 6 acres. Because it includes that wooded lot.
The wooded lot, yeah. That's why I was asking you. I can't really tell by looking, because I don't know how big the wooded area is.
lots on that?
There's 6 wooded lots, and then there's 3, 6, 7 more lots to the north of that, closer to the river, none of which are in a flood zone.
They have to bring in a lot of extra dirt and everything to raise it up.
They would have to do, and we let them know that this would be our contribution. We're not looking to put new roads down there, we're not looking to put, they'd have some connections to utilities, yes, there'd be some fill needed. But they use Shepler Construction for everything, and John Smith's already been down there, and he says it's very usable land, so there shouldn't be too many complications.
It's totally outside the floodway,
Yeah.
so they don't have to build it up at all or build above a certain amount.
I would mention one thing kind of odd. Years ago in high school, we put up football goalposts there at Wayne Park. I remember we drilled the holes, we brought up cinders. So they might have to check what's underneath there.
They've done some,
I don't know that they're gonna be building basements, though.
they wouldn't be basements.
Yeah,
but- yeah.
I don't think they'd be building basements for those houses, for those units.
Yeah, that'd be slab.
That's all I got.
Any more questions for Bill? Thank you, Bill.
One more.
Go ahead.
The proposed annexation for out by the golf course. Quick reminder, they built a new clubhouse. They're building a new clubhouse. Should be done by Memorial Day. When they built it, they've lost their driving range. So we worked with the Myers family. We had RDC purchase the land just west of number 4, if you're familiar with the golf course. There's 10 acres there. RDC could buy it, and they did buy it, but you have to, it's outside their jurisdiction. It's currently in the county. So you can buy it, but there's Indiana code that you need to actively pursue the annexation process to bring it into your jurisdiction. So we started that. They filed a petition, they being RDC. Annexation is very difficult. You have to have 60% of all landowners that want to be annexed and show up to the meeting and say, yes, we want that. So it's almost become an impossible thing. The good thing is RDC is 100% owner, so that won't be a problem. It's technically called a super voluntary annexation. It's 10 acres. You'll have 2 readings if you pass it. Before the second reading, I will be giving you a written fiscal plan to prove that this isn't a fiscal responsibility of yours to bring this in. It does move it to fire protection, street department, police protection. The fiscal plan will kind of show what that means. It's just 10 acres of farmland. We'll have a public hearing before the second reading, and if it passes, the annexation will be part of Ward number 1, which is Cameron's, so you'll have more area. Currently, it is not in our fire district, it's in a new fire district, and when that happens, you have to wait 2 Januaries after you approve it, which makes no sense. So if you approve it on 2 readings, this will not come into effect until January 1 of 2027.
That doesn't stop the driving.
It doesn't stop anything.
It means.
Correct. So like, as an example, Chase and Davis, we did that in 2023, and we had this wall of whose is it, and then January 1 of 2025, it became into the our fire district.
So this, only annexing this 10 acres.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. Just a process. There's like 7 more meetings, but this will be the first.
Meetings in 2 years.
If you pass it. If you turn it down, I have to go to 7 more meetings, so. But I highly recommend we do it.
I recommend.
Okay, so Bill, on the peak services at Dunwoody Park, you want to get that for a resolution for them to purchase that?
Correct.
Okay.
They're not purchasing
It's gifting.
We're giving that to them, so they're not purchasing it at all?
They're not purchasing.
City land and let's say.
They already, you own it, you've been maintaining it, you don't want to maintain it anymore. We found a perfect person to give it to.
Okay, very good.
That would be on the March resolution, or April's resolution.
That means we don't have to maintain it anymore?
What was that?
Once it's turned over, once it's,
Of course, annexation, we're just voting.
We're trying, Dan.
that's an ordinance, and it's in your packet, and it'll be, the first reading would be in April.
Are we in favor of moving both these forward to the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Bill. Wait a minute, go ahead. Sure, go ahead.
Any other news? What we talked about?
I have reached out to that company multiple times. They aren't getting back to me. So I've talked to your guy, the contact, and he's going to let, his boss is going to get back to me. He has not yet. Since then, I've sent them so much material about Logansport, and I'm selling it. Hopefully it'll land. It's fire department related.
Is that public knowledge? What are you talking about?
It's fire department related. They happen to work on fire engines and things like that.
The company that,
Yeah, you've talked a lot about them today.
the company that we're looking to buy the truck from is looking to build a service center in this area.
Wow.
And we were told, Chief Miller and Jeremy was told that Kokomo more or less turned it down and told Bill about it and said, go for it. It'd be a facility big enough to handle maybe 20 trucks a day to work on. They come from all around different states.
That's awesome.
It'd be a
Okay.
horsepower.
I've aggressively pursued it, but I'm backing off until they get back to me now. Yeah, I'm like, I've kind of overdone it, but
Don't look like you're begging.
sometimes you do though. That's.
Have anything else related to planning and economic development from anybody? 7:10, we are adjourned.